when I was around like 4 or 5 years old, I remember my pops beating my moms. That was like ultimate violence. Like I seen them beating her up, like punching her, like a boxer beating another man, but beating my moms, yo. And that's the only memory that I really have of them together. Like I don't have no memory of them together intimately. Like when I think of my moms and my pops, I don't think of them like as a loving couple, because I can't remember them holding hands or laying down together or walking. The only memory I have of them together physically is when my pops was beating my moms. Yeah, that's the first act of violence that I probably seen or experienced that was traumatic. Me and my sister was crying. He was like, "Get off my mother, leave my mother alone." And he was like, get the F for the, you know what I mean? He sent us to the back room. We like, we ain't gonna get beat up. But we said something.
Where were you living at this time?
Brownsville, man. On Tapscott. Between Blake and Sutter, man.
So growing up, like, what kind of kid were you? Like, how was your childhood? Like, what age were you when you could say you started kind of going astray?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. For real, I can't, yo man, I think if you could be born a criminal, man, I think man, if anybody really could have been born a criminal, man, I thought I was born a criminal, man, because like my earliest thoughts of me really as a child was like, some of the earliest memories that I have is me stealing, robbing, like stealing, like participating in crime, like stealing. I'm talking about like I would steal everything. It's like when I would go, like they would have house parties, right? Like back in the days in the 70s, they would have house parties and all of the grown-ups would be in the room. Everybody would come to the house parties and put their coats in the room on the bed. Like whoever house it was, like the coats, they would put them on the bed in the bedroom, like in the bedroom. And me, I would always act like I was sick. Like my stomach was hurting, and they would tell me go in the room and lay on the bed. So I would go in there and I would lay on the bed, and when they close the door and leave me in there with all the coats, I would go in all of the coats. I'm talking about I was a little kid, man. I was like 4 or 5 years old. I would go in all of the coats, and I would take a little, like if I see a coat with a lot of bills, I would take like one bill out of it. I would go through everything and take one little, like a coin or a bill out of every jacket that had money in it.
So it was it?
And nobody taught me that.
Nobody taught you.
You didn't see that? I didn't see it. That's the thing. I didn't see it. I didn't have nobody in my life that was around me saying like, yo, be a thief, be a robber. I wasn't looking at TV and understanding like criminality or, you know, the difference between like cops and robbers.
Was your father in the streets doing stuff like that? Or was he the street dude? Was your father in the streets like selling drugs, doing crimes like
my father, not like he wasn't doing crimes. Like I remember the blackout of 77. This is the only, my father always worked. Right. That's what I'm saying, like the blackout of 77, that's a big memory for me. And that right there, my father, you know, he was looting. You know, he was a young black man and he was looting. And you know, everybody did that. So, but he wasn't in the street. He wasn't a street guy, you know. He wasn't a street guy.
Your mother wasn't in the streets?
Nah, she had little hustles, like, you know, like she would take, she was at work, she always worked. But the thing is, she would like hustle as far as like, a lot, like in Brownsville, you had a lot of people that snatched pocketbooks and stuff, and you know, stuff like that. And she like would get the credit cards or stuff like that from the people that snatched pocketbooks, and she would go to the stores and stuff for the people, whatever. Like, you know, of course, she had to look like she was, you know, she was legit. So, and she would bust them down for her, and she would take, because she was smart, she had a college degree, and she would take the GED test for people back then, and you didn't have to do the thumbprint or none of that stuff like that. And she would take like GED tests for people and stuff like, you know.
So when did you start realizing that, you know, Brownsville was filled with kids that do crime?
Summer jobs. Everybody know about summer jobs. You had people that was counselors and all of that. Everybody getting their first summer job when they turn 13 or 14, whatever. They get their blue card and they get a summer job, big counselor at a youth center or something. But anyway, the summer jobs. Everybody go get them jobs and they work. You know, they get them summer job checks. And everybody around my way used to go rob people for summer job checks. They used to be going, they wasn't the ones that was working. See, the people on my block, they wasn't the ones that was working.
Summer youth.
They wasn't working summer youth. They was the ones that was robbing everybody. When summer youth checks came, everybody on my block, all of the older guys on my block was coming through, you know what I'm saying? Like, they just robbed somebody, they coming, you know, they coming through with news. They go up on Utica Avenue, they go everywhere where the check cashing places at. And they stalk the youngsters going, you know what I'm saying? They stalk the people going to cash their checks. And like, you know, so my hood, the guys, they wasn't the ones working, they was the ones robbing, you know.
How old was you when you could honestly say you took a notice to guns? And what made you, you know, feel like you had to have a gun out there?
Well, you know, the gun thing is like, guys around my way always had guns. The guns was always around. Like, they had like 38 specials or a 25 automatic.
And what year was this at the time?
This is like, I'm talking about like 82. You know what I'm saying? Like 82, 83. Like, they had them, everybody, all the old guys, everybody had guns. Everybody knew everybody had guns. They wasn't like, because everybody was robbers around my way. It's like, you from Brownsville, you was a robber. It's like, who doesn't rob? And you from Brownsville, you's a robber. So you growing up around the robbing materials. That's one of them, the materials. Yeah, it's a trade. Yes, it's a trade. You got to have the tools of your trade. So if you're a robber, then one of the things you're gonna get is a pistol.
See, let's explain this to people. You know, robbery in itself is kind of a different sport in Brownsville, because robbery is so vicious in Brownsville that you could be a gangster and somebody will still get the drop on you.
And everybody can get robbed.
You not soft because you got robbed.
You ain't soft because you got robbed. You slept. That's it, man. You got caught sleeping. You slept, bro.
And the same dude that got robbed, next week
he might get robbed.
He'll be back.
And he'll rob. Yeah, exactly. You already know. So
it's a different. I want to clarify that, because I hear people from other parts of New York City be like, "Oh, yo, that dude soft. He got robbed." Bro, listen, where I come from,
just because you got robbed don't mean you soft, bro.
Where you from, how much work you put in. If you lacking, they'll throw their life away and your life away for that robbery. You understand what I'm saying? And then worry about later who you are and how busy you get and all of that. And this is why a lot of people die in Brownsville.
I remember, I done got robbed now. I got robbed, son. I got robbed when I was young. I got robbed when I was older. And when I was young, I got robbed, and after I got robbed, I joined the robbers. Like when I was 6, 7, 8, I was packing bags and key food. Like in the supermarket, this was our hustle. I wasn't big enough to rob yet. I used to pump gas, I pack bags and key food, pump gas, and I used to hum and bum. Like humming and bumming, it was like when cars stop at the light, I used to go knock on the window, like boom, 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 mister.
How old were you?
I was like probably 7, 6, 7, 8, like knocking on the windows, and they would open the window. What's going on, little boy? Like, excuse me, mister, do you got a quarter? Like that. We call that humming and bumming. Now it goes around 9 because you know what? They came out with asteroids. They came out with the first like video games, and you know we was trying to play video games, so we was trying to get quarters. You know, they had Missile Command and Asteroid. You know them first video games. You know in the 70s.
I used to beg quarters in front of McDonald's.
All that. You know, I'm talking about. I used to go up to people and I used to have 4 quarters. And I'd be like, excuse me, sir, do you have $1 for these 4 quarters? And they'd be like, yeah, sure, here you go, yeah. Because everybody probably want to change. So when he goes to give me the dollar and go to change, I snatch the dollar and run with both of them. You know, stuff, yo, it was crazy. Huh? All over Brownsville.
So when you got robbed, like,
the first time?
Yeah, like who, like, where was these dudes from? And
they was from Brownsville.
I mean, like, they was from Tapscott?
No, they was from Rockaway Parkway.
So, they robbed you for your packing bags money?
No, yeah, for my packing. I came out of Kiefer. I packing bags in Kiefer. Now, what they was living at is like, well, it's like the edge of Brownsville before it becomes East Flatbush on Rockaway Parkway. As soon as you cross East 98th Street, you know, which is Brownsville. Because, you know, you got 98th Street, man, they got a history with it. 98, that's the Ville. 11212, man. 11212, man.
And it's one of a zip code.
11213. That's when you got the plaza and all of that. Yeah.
The 90s is Brownsville. Now the 50s.
And you know, 50s, 40s, that's East Flatbush, yeah.
But the 90s itself, we always considered that the Ville.
Yeah.
And you could tell by how busy they get. You understand what I'm saying? But yeah. So you said, dudes, you had your packing bags money, and what happened?
Well, I packed the bags all day, and I came out because they all used to pack bags too. But then I guess all of the what's the names would be full, all of the aisles. So it probably only was like 4 or 5 aisles. So if you got there first, 5 people got there first, they got there. And everybody else be there waiting for whoever gonna leave. And they like, yo, I got next. Everybody trying to get in to see whoever leave first, they could get the next spot, packing the bags. You know what I'm saying? So dudes always be standing out there waiting for an opening. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I always believe. So one day when I'm going out, I got all my quarters and stuff like that. I got, you know, I'm you know, mad change. I'm stacked up, new bills. I help do little deliveries. You know, I'm doing my things. I'm coming out. And dudes came up to me and they feed me out. They feed me out.
They just put you to sleep?
No, they ain't put me to sleep. But they feed me out. They yoked me up. They yoked me up on one of my pockets and took the thing.
Dudes older than you?
Yeah, they was my age and older. They probably my age bracket. They wasn't older like that. So if I was 8, they was between the ages of probably 7 and 10. You know, in the same age bracket.
So how did you feel? So this was the first time you ever got robbed.
Yep.
And how did it make you feel? Like, what type of thoughts was going through your head after it happened? Like, what did you do? What did you think to yourself?
Oh, I said, these people don't know my moms. So I went and got my mother. And I was like, yo, mom. She's like, what's up? I'm like, cause she know I was hustling. She knew I was hustling. So she was like, what's going on? I'm like, yo, dudes just robbed me. The boys from Rockaway Parkway just robbed me coming out of Key Food. She was like, what? I'm like, yeah. So she went and got the butcher knife. And we went around the corner on 9-8, you know what I'm saying, right there, 9-8 and East 98th right there in Parks, and right there where Key Food at, or Winter, whatever street that is, and we went over there, we seen the boys, as soon as we seen them, like right there, my mom pulled out that butcher knife and started chasing them. And they ran around the block and she couldn't catch them, you know, they kids. So she chased them, that was it. And then, that was it, and she was like, yo, don't let nobody take nothing from you. And I was like, yo, all right. So I was like, yo, how I'm not gonna let nobody take nothing from me if they're gonna be jumping me and stuff like, you know, it's a lot of them. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try to figure this thing out. So the next time I went up to Key Food, and I didn't go inside, even though I could have went in there and got a spot. I stayed outside. And I waited like with everybody else. I even see the boys that robbed me and everything. Everybody out there just waiting. And you know, Phil, man, I'm waiting with them. And when somebody came out and it was somebody they feel was a vic and they went to go rob them, I went with them. I just went and joined them. When they was robbing them, I helped them rob them.
The same dudes who had robbed you?
The same dudes that had robbed me, I helped them rob somebody else. So I'm like, yo, it wasn't really like if you can't beat them, join them thing. But yo, I'm not gonna be the victim. I'm gonna be the victimizer, like that. So I just went ahead and I started
put yourself on the team.
Yeah, and I went to start robbing with them. you know, like that. And they became some of my better friends in life, you know, like that. You know, as far as like, you know, and, you know, like, I would, even though they was from around that part, like, I always had a connection to them. You know, we was on the island together, I seen them in the streets, like, and they was 3 brothers at that, and they all dead now. They was from the Ville, but they had moved to East New York later in life, you know.
All of them is dead now?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. I only robbed with them like that key food, but I didn't like really join them like that. It's just that that was my first introduction into robbery. I would start robbing with the guys on my block, you know, on my block actually on Tapscott and around the corner, Howard, and you know what I'm saying, stuff like that. All the guys over there, cause they was robbing also. Like I wasn't like them dudes that introduced me to robbery, but they was, you know, they was the ones who introduced me as a part of a robbery. You know, because I knew dudes around my way was robbing people. I know this is what they did.
On Pickin Avenue? Or you
yeah, they robbed on Pickin Avenue. They robbed on the corner of the block. Like if somebody walked through the block and they look like the dudes that run up on them.
And guns, you talking about snatching pockets.
Digging pockets and stuff like that. You know, because at this time they wasn't like really robbing with guns out there like that.
And they were how old?
They was like, you know, 12, 13, 14, you know, doing, you know, strong arm robbery, snatching chains and stuff like that. You know, that we wasn't seeing the armed robberies because at that time, you know, for this, because the crack didn't hit yet. You know, the crack didn't hit yet. You know, the big armed robberies that was going on in the hood like that happened when the viciousness came when the money came.
How old were you about when crack, when you actually saw with your own 2 eyes that it was something different in the hood and crack was here?
Well, when crack came, I was already hustling in the spots. Like, I remember I was hustling like some older guys, they wanted me to work for them. They was coke dealers. And like nobody on my block was, all the little guys, nobody sold drugs. Because back then you couldn't really give a kid drugs to sell. You know, this would be before the crack era. But it was some guys, some West Indian guys that was drug dealers, and they wanted me to hustle for them. They wanted me to sell drugs. They wanted me to hustle. And the opportunity came to me from people that I knew, and they were like, yo, you want to hustle, make some money selling some drugs? I'm like, drugs? Now, mind you, I never even seen cocaine before. You feel what I'm saying? I never even seen cocaine before. You know, I heard of cocaine, but I never seen it before. So, and they want me to sell cocaine. You feel me? So I'm like, you gotta ask my moms, bro. You feel what I'm saying? So I'm like, yo, you gotta ask my moms. So they went to ask my moms. And my moms told them whatever year that I could work, but I think I gotta go to school. So they was like, I could work, I gotta do 12-hour shifts.
You know, Brownsville, Brooklyn is such a poor place that, you know, when we grew up, I knew a lot of friends who their mothers made them sell drugs. You understand? To bring money in. My best friend was one of them at the time, back in the days. You feel what I'm saying? Like, his mother would curse people out. Oh, you put on this bitch son, but you ain't put my son on? You understand what I'm saying? Because when people are poor, they do a lot of wild stuff with money. So you said you made these dudes ask your mother for permission.
Yeah, of course. I can't go and work at a spot for 12 hours. I gotta be home. I got a curfew. I'm a kid. What I supposed? I gotta get permission to stay at home at night, man. If I'm gonna be selling drugs, it's a 12-hour shift. What are you talking about, bro? I gotta be there. I gotta do my homework there and all of that stuff like that. Yo, bro. And I'm really trying to leave the robbery stuff alone, you know. So it was a new hustle for me that I didn't have to rob every day, you know. So I'm like, yo, shoot, I don't have to rob every day. And, you know, so I'm like, yeah, I'm cool. And that's around the time I start losing, like this is around the time that it really got rough, you know. It really was getting a little rough for me. But I went ahead and I started selling, you know, the cocaine. At that time, the coke was going, they was 20s, and it was an aluminum foil. Like, you know, an aluminum foil, one side is pale, like kind of pale, and the other side is shiny. And they used to wrap up the coke with it, and if it's on the shiny side showing, that means it was a 20 rock. That means the 20 was still rocky. And if it was with the dull part showing, that means it was 20 flakes. That means that it was powdered up, it was already shredded already, and it was powder. That was for like the sniffers or whatever, because you know people, they wasn't in the spot yet, crack didn't hit. So now
people was freebasing.
People was freebasing, but they wasn't. Yeah, but it was nobody. They wasn't coming. They was freebasing, but we wasn't paying no attention to it. We wasn't like, yo, people buying coke. I didn't know what people did with coke. Only I knew that people did with coke was sniff it. I didn't know that people shot coke up. I didn't know all type of other stuff could be done like freebase. I didn't know none of that. All I know is that people sniff coke, right? So that's it. So I used to be in a spot, and I used to work in a spot selling the coke. You know, and and me, you know, I used to do my thing. I used to hustle. They was paying me $150 a week, you know, for 12-hour shifts, for 12 hours.
How old again?
I was 13, like 12, 13, yeah. Yep. The spots back in the days, it wasn't, people didn't come in to a spot. It was like a apartment. You came to the apartment, in the apartment building, knocked on the door, either like the knob came off, it was a little thing under the door, a slot, it was some type of way. You never made physical contact with your dealer.
So when you got paid, you bought that, you kept that money for yourself, or you bought that money home?
No, I bought that, no, they paid my mother. They paid my mother. They wouldn't give me, they paid her whatever they gave her. But me, I don't know what they was giving her, if they was giving her coke or whatever.
So they would pay your mother directly and you just was there working?
Nah, they would pay her for letting me work. They would pay me, so they would try to play me though. Because
both of you?
Yeah, they pay her for letting me work, and they paid me my $150 a week. That's how they started me off. Then it went up to $200, but the way they played me, they would give me a $50 bill with like 100 singles and give me a big mitt. It made me look like I had a lot of money. You know, I'm poor, I'm from Brownsville. So, you know, they'll come around with the mitt, because none of them dudes, everybody out there poor, they robbing and they stealing and everybody's starving, bro. And then I'm coming around with a mitt, I'm hustling. They don't know nothing about that. So everybody looking at me like, yo, how dude got this money? You know what I'm saying? Because none of the dudes my age was into none of that. You know, they wasn't into, like, nobody was, crack wasn't out, so nobody really was selling drugs like that. So when they seen me and everybody started whispering around on my block, like, what is this kid doing? You know, because everybody, you know, seeing, you know, they knowing about me having money. You know, because everybody know your business in Brownsville. Everybody in everybody business. You know, people talk, they gossip or whatever.
So what was you doing with that money at that age?
I tried to take care of my brothers and sisters. You know, I had to help take care of my father was gone. It was just my mother.
Was your house very, like, your household was poor, like very poor?
Yeah, we was poor. We was poor.
I was on welfare, like.
Yeah, no, well, at this time, my mother, she was getting public assistance, but she was working. But she was getting public assistance because she was a single mother raising five children on her own. You know what I'm saying? So there's no way that one woman, you know what I'm saying, with a job, you know what I'm saying, can raise 5 children. A one-person salary is not enough to is not enough to raise no 5 children. It's not.